All right, it looks like we're live. As always, I'm gonna check the audio real quick. This is the first time that I don't have my hands on the microphone. I don't have my paws on it, partially because I feel every time I move it around, it it disrupts the cord and causes like a electrical pop. And I just want to avoid that for your guys's viewing pleasure. As much as I do love holding onto the microphone, I don't want it to come at the expense of the audio. Guys's viewing pleasure. As much as I do love holding onto the microphone. Okay, that sounds good to me. And let's get right into it. Welcome back to the MMA Uncensored YouTube and on Facebook. We're going live there. If you're on Facebook, let's go. Today, we're just going to be talking about this weekend's UFC event, which is Paul the Bear Jew Craig and Brendan All In Allen. Now, these are two of the top ranked 185ers, the middleweights going at it in a marquee matchup. And I think it's flying under the radar. Guys, we can all agree that this main event is flying heavily underneath the radar, which is kind of a bummer. You know, Brendan Allen's number 10 in the division. Paul Craig is number 13. Craig obviously went up to 205. Didn't work out. Here he is down at middleweight, where a lot of people would say maybe he belongs. So here is the thought process for the main event. Paul Craig, as we know, needs to sub. He's got to get it to the ground. He's got to get the BJJ going. If he can't do that, then the win equity goes down significantly. He's coming off of a massive second round TKO of Andre Muniz. And that was in August. I mean, that really was not all that long ago. That was July. So a pretty okay-ish layoff. He was plus 185 going into that contest. Here he is at, I think, like plus 300, plus 400 ahead of the main event. Brendan Allen, on the other hand, is on an unbelievable streak. He hasn't lost since December of 2021. Since then, he's strung together a win streak that includes Sam Alvey, Jacob Malkoun, Christoph Jotko, Andre Muniz again, and Bruno Silva, which was an interesting main event. That was like, I think that same day, the main event fell apart, and then Allen and Silva was upgraded to it. Either way, I mean, Andre Muniz appearing on both of these guys' win streaks is a little tough. The only people that have beaten Brendan Allen inside the UFC, it's the dynamic duo of Chris Curtis and Sean Strickland. Curtis finished him way back in 2021, and Strickland finished him way back in 2020. He's just been perfect since. And with 4 finishes in that streak that I'd mentioned earlier, feels like it's about time for Brendan Allen to have a coming out party. I like him. I think he's well-rounded. I think that those losses that he took to Curtis and Strickland stuck in people's minds for a while. At least it's stuck in my mind. I didn't realize that they were as far away as they were, or he's had as much success since then. So this could be where we finally start to see some middleweight hype on Brendan Allen. And, I mentioned the BJJ upside of the Bear Jew, but Allen's got 13 submission victories in his professional MMA career. He's only lost by sub once, and that was a second round. Let me find it. It was all the way back in 2016 to Trevin Giles at Legacy 52. That was, March of 2016. It's the last time that this guy's been subbed. So Paul Craig is going to have to do, in my opinion, a decent amount to find those positions and get it done. Craig's last couple years hasn't been as clean or as sustained. Before the Andre Muniz fight, he had that bout with Johnny Walker. Walker got him out of there very quickly. That was a tough fight for Paul Craig fans. As a as a Paul Craig supporter, I was picking Paul Craig going into the Johnny Walker fight. I thought that Johnny's fight IQ would lead him into just some dumb position that Paul could capitalize on. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Nowhere close to what happened. Johnny died within 2.5 minutes, and Walker gets another meme KO. Before that, he lost a unanimous decision to Volkan Oezdemir in July of 2022. I didn't like the Volkan fight a ton. I felt like that was from both guys, both Volkan and Paul Craig. They just left a lot of chips on the table. Each guy was really hesitant. I felt like neither of them really pushed and changed gears. It was like the same slow pace the entire time. Paul Craig unable to get a lot of the offense going in any regard. I mean, the grappling was unsuccessful. The striking was about dead even, which was surprising if you think about Volkan Oezdemir. I mean, Oezdemir is a pretty solid staple of the 205-pound division. And, for him to not push and get Oezdemir out of there was just questionable. I talked about Paul Craig's 205 run. I misremembered. He was pretty good at 205 at light heavyweight. He strung together a couple wins. Obviously, Jamal Hill, he's got that existing win over him, which came at UFC 263. I was there in the building for it. It was an interesting one. I saw Jamal afterwards. His arm was in a sling, but he was in high hopes. Then triangles, Nikita Krylov. Obviously, Krylov is on a great tear right now. So he's got wins over like highly ranked people in division. But the Volkan loss, and then more recently and most specifically, the Johnny Walker setback sent him down to 185, where, he starts off strong with the win over Andre Muniz, gets the performance of the night. Now here he is in a main event. If he gets by Brendan Allen, this could really shake things up for Paul Craig, who, at the age he is, 35, that's not young, guys. That's not young at all. 35 is not a spring chicken. But at the same time, at these larger weight classes, you do get away with a bit of age, I think. I mean, that's always been my perspective, is that, if you are a bit older, middleweight and above, you can kind of scrape by, especially if you've got the skills to make up for it. I don't know. I mean, I think that this has got Brendan Allen written all over it. If you're a Paul Craig supporter, I'm not coming down on him, and I'm not overlooking him. I just think that Allen's at a point where, dude, he's firing. I mean, Brendan Allen is firing right now on all cylinders, on a great win streak, a number of awesome finishes, all of them rear naked chokes. I mean, rear naked choked Sam Alvey, rear naked choked Krzysztof Jotko, rear naked choked Andre Muniz, rear naked choked Bruno Silva. So I think that this could be one of the first times that we see Paul Craig get submitted. That's the prediction. Allen by sub. Craig's only been submitted one time, similar to Brendan Allen, and that was all the way back in December of 2018. It was a Kimura. I butchered that. Kimura to Jimmy Crute, who has kind of fallen off the face of the earth. It's weird. Paul Craig's had such a weird career. Bouncing back from a decent amount of stoppage losses. I mean, he's been stopped 5 times, 4 of which were first-round TKOs, yet he's still been competitive, still picking up wins when they are necessary. We've got Gurwinder, just came here to say all of my homies and me hate Jamal Hill. Jamal's attracted a lot of negative PR recently, and we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about Jamal Hill and his statements about, standing TKOing Alex Pereira. We'll talk about that. Oh, I know. We're going to get into it. We're going to unpack it. We're going to unpack it real good. But first off, we got to take it to the rest of this card. So Allen versus Craig, main event. That's my thought. Brendan Allen by sub. Let me know what you guys think. I can see Paul Craig finishing him, but I think the way to beat Brendan Allen is not really in Paul Craig's skill set. Not to be disparaging, but where Craig excels, Allen's also pretty talented. And Brendan's got, the sharper striking, in my opinion, and the better durability, which is going to be where it all comes down to at middleweight. Co-main event, Michael Morales and Jake the Celtic Kid Matthews. Now, Morales is a real interesting prospect. 15-0, born in Ecuador, but fighting out of Tijuana, Mexico. He has had a blistering start to his UFC tenure. On the Contender Series, gets a unanimous decision, which, that's not what people on the Contender Series want. That's not what Dana looks for. But that was way back in 2021, where it was still kind of acceptable, especially if he had a good performance. Follows it up with a beautiful KO of Trevin Giles, then gets a knockout of Adam Fugit, then gets the unanimous decision over Max Payne Griffin, who, in my opinion, is one of the better litmus tests for that division. I think Max Payne Griffin is a solid welterweight. I don't think that he's a guy who can really compete with maybe the top upper echelon, but he's certainly a guy that's going to keep you at the gate if you're not at the requisite level. Michael Morales, though, is. Now he takes on Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews is a really interesting career, a somewhat, I don't want to say frustrating career by any means, but there's fights of his where I feel like he should win that he doesn't. We've got Bree's son in the chat. What's up, my guy? What's going on, Bree? Over on Facebook there. If you are watching on any platform, like, subscribe, comment, engage. We're here to have a fun time for as long as the stream goes. Yeah, I mean, Jake Matthews picking up a win over Darius Flowers, second round submission. That was in July of this year. So again, same timeline of both these guys coming off of, wins. Morales, his most recent one was July 1st. So makes sense. I like the matchmaking. Before that, the unanimous decision defeat to Matthew Semmelsberger. I thought that coming into that, Jake Matthews should have won that fight. I felt like he has more tools. I thought there were a lot of questions about the cardio, about if the fight went long, how would he look? And Jake Matthews didn't, I feel, put it up. I just didn't put enough tools on the table, to steal that and lose the decision. Before that, takes out Andre Fialho. Right when Fialho was having a pretty decent run, Matthews just sits him down and TKOs him in the second round. Before that, the arm triangle loss to Sean Brady, which was March of 2021. So he's only had a couple fights in the last few years. But before March of 2021, pretty active. I mean, wins over Diego Sanchez, Rostam Akhman, Shinsho Nzai, the Leech, Li Jingliang, beat him way back in February of 2018. And then sprinkled within there some losses to Kevin Lee, lost to Anthony Rocco Martin. He's a finish or be finished guy. I think that's really what I'm working to with my thoughts on Jake Matthews. He is kill or be killed. And there are times where he does turn it up, and I'm very impressed with what he brings to the table, I think that his boxing is pretty good. I think that his cage presence is good as well. And I think this will be a good test for Michael Morales, who this is his fourth fight in the UFC. This is Jake Matthews' 19th fight in the UFC. So a big experience edge to the Celtic kid. And with 13 finishes, 5 KOs, 8 submissions, he's well-rounded. I think this is a great test for Morales. But I do think that Mike's going to get it done here. I like what I'm seeing from him. I'm a big fan of the striking. There's a reason why he's got 11 knockouts inside 15 victories. It's because he's long. It's because he uses the range well. So I think I'm going to pick Morales by KO. Jake Matthews, he's got one existing TKO loss. That was Kevin Lee. That was Kevin Wee. Kevin Wee. That was great fighter Kevin Wee. Kevin Lee in July of 2016, the Ultimate Fighter 23 finale. Jake Matthews came up short, gets pounded out. And that's it. That's the only time that Jake Matthews has ever been TKO'd. I think it's going to happen again. I think Morales can find the chin and put him away. I mean, Jake Matthews, 29 years young, still, like you would say, biologically a young dude, but 25 professional mixed martial arts bouts. That's unreal. That's a lot of tread on the tires for what you would think is a young guy. So, we've seen what beats Matthews. Again, not to use the logic from the main event, but to use the same pattern of thinking. We've seen what beats him, and I think Morales has all those tools to beat him. So that's the main. That's the co-main. Now we get to Chase Hooper and Jordan Levitt. Now, here's the fun news about Chase Hooper and Jordan Levitt. Jordan just said at the media day today that if he has a child, his second child is supposed to be due 4 days after the fight. If the baby comes before the fight, Jordan Levitt will leave. Jordan Levitt he'll just cancel the fight and head to the emergency room for his newborn baby. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that before. A fighter mentioning that. I know a lot of the sentiment was, okay, well, why would you accept the fight if you knew that this was like around the same time frame? Which I think that's a little bit of a valid question. I think that there is some truth in it. And especially like if you do walk out, you're not making any money. Now, Chase isn't making any money. This is a weird conundrum that you've put us all in, Jordan. As much as we love you, the twerk king, the monkey god, it's a weird thing where like I hope your baby isn't born until after the fight. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's a weird thing to think. I've never wished for a baby to be born, before or after a certain date. But let's hope that this baby does not come on Saturday because that throws a wrench at a lot of people, especially our guy Chase Hooper. I'm not sure what the sentiment is for Chase Hooper, but a fellow 24-year-old, and I met Chase. He's a very nice guy. A fellow 24-year-old. I love a lot of what Chase Hooper is doing. Inside the UFC, he's taken a couple tough outs. Obviously, Steve Garcia got that first round TKO in October of 2022. Chase responds with a brutal beatdown of Nick Fiore in May of this year. Now he's got a bit of a step up, but I like this fight for Chase. I do. I think that the losses to Peterson, Garcia, and Caceres have taught Chase a ton. I know that he's worked a lot with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and a lot of strength and conditioning. I mean, if you've tracked Chase Hooper, this fight, he's coming into it looking really filled out, looking really strong. And I think that that's going to be a beautiful answer to the wrestling takedowns of Jordan Leavitt. And on the feet, I think Chase Hooper's developed nicely. We always kind of have joked in the past about Chase Hooper and how he doesn't maybe have the striking, but you can't, I think, at this point in time, knock the hands. He was tearing Nick up on the feet and then would go to the ground. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, I wish he stayed standing. I wish he kind of, gave him the business a little bit more upstairs because it was going that well. So we'll see what this one turns into. I mean, you look at the line of it. Let me yank up. Give me a moment. Let me yank up DraftKings. Let's get the real lines on this and the real reads. I don't know if anyone bets here. I don't advise it. This is not a glowing recommendation of sports betting. I don't think you should if you have addictive tendencies or an addictive personality. Let's see. So currently, Chase Hooper minus 205. Jordan Leavitt plus 170. So the odds makers have this one split pretty decently in Chase Hooper's side. If you look at the amount of bets placed, it's a little bit tighter. 54% of the actions coming in on Chase. So where the actual money is at is a bit tighter than the line would suggest. But I think that this is a really solid matchup for Chase. So I hope Jordan's son or daughter, I can't remember which one, does not arrive until after the fight. And, both guys can get paid and head their separate ways. If Hooper is able to get this one, it's back-to-back wins. He's never had back-to-back wins inside the UFC. His first UFC fight was Daniel Tamer. Then he loses to Alex Caceres. Then he wins against Peter Barrett. Then he loses to Steven Peterson. Then he wins over Felipe Colares. And then he loses to Steve Garcia. It's been alternating wins and losses. It would be really cool to see Chase Hooper find some consistency like he did at the beginning of his career. I mean, he started his pro MMA career 8-0. His amateur career 5-0. So this continued and sustained success would be really great to see for the 24-year-old who is growing up inside the promotion. Remember, at one point in time, Chase was the youngest guy on the roster. Now when we're adding in, 17-year-olds in Raul Rosas Jr.'s and the kids, it makes Chase a little older. Chase was born in 99 like myself. There's kids in the UFC that were born in 2002, 2003. It's unreal. And it's been really great to see Chase grow up. I think that's the cool thing. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I don't know if everyone shares this sentiment, but the last 5 years of Chase's career, we've been able to watch and see the development and see the improvements. And like, that is a unique, I think, honor as fans that maybe at times we don't really recognize. I mean, when Chase fights, I think it pops in your mind, but it is just really cool to see. And so I'm going to pick Chase in that one. Unsure if he'll get it done on the scorecards or the inside the distance, but think he's got it. Now, I'm torn. Guys, I'm torn on this next one. We've got Peyton Talbot and Nick Aguirre. It's interesting because I'm 99% sure I called Nick Aguirre's last fight. If not, it was inside the APFC promotion. So he is an alumni of APFC. I'm the lead play-by-play Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship. So it's really cool to see guys progress to the big show from orgs that I've been lucky enough to work with and consistently do shows with. He takes on Peyton Talbot, who's from Uriah Faber's A1 Combat. He was the former bantamweight champion over there. I'm also the lead play-by-play of that organization. So it's an interesting spot for me to be in where I'm like, I just hope both have fun. Peyton Talbot coming off the Contender Series. He's 25 years young. Nick Aguirre is 27. Peyton's 6-0, Nick's 7-1. So in terms of experience, in terms of age, very even. I would say the biggest difference between these guys is the reach. Aguirre's got about 3.5 inches on him, but the way that Peyton fights is really long. He is an excellent stand-up specialist, and if I'm Nick Aguirre, I'm probably going to be looking to get it to the ground and grind him out. I'll mention this to Peyton Talbot. His championship run, the lead up to the belt, and obviously the win in A1 Combat was filled with some tough competition. We've got a show on Saturday, and I've been, lucky to go through some of the guys that he's faced, and they're not scrubs, man. I mean, if you're on UFC Fight Pass, rest assured you've probably had some pretty good level of competition. Aguirre, a McKendree University wrestler. Didn't have like the most insane success in collegiate wrestling, but still, made it there and was competitive. And I think getting those rounds is always helpful, right? For a mixed martial artist to have that pedigree of wrestling. 100% finish rate as well for Nick Aguirre. He's got a rear naked choke, guillotine, TKO, triangle, TKO, rear naked choke, TKO. Like, he's pretty well rounded. Darce strokes in his amateur career, another arm triangle down there. We'll say he lost the UFC debut to Dan Argueta. He was a plus 410 underdog. So the fact that he made it to the scorecards, to me, is also a win. Like, if you're north of 300 and you get to the scorecards, can't hate it. Can't hate it at all. You exceeded expectations per the books. He did have a grappling match in between that fight and this against Nick Fox, which he won by decision. So, again, shoring up the ground game. Peyton Talbot, on the other hand, again, 5 KOs and 6 wins. He's got no first-round knockouts. It's not a guy that's going to get you out of there super quick. But, second round, that's where he starts cooking. Third round, that's where he's been putting guys away. Won a decision on the Contender Series over Reyes Cortez, Tracy Cortez's younger brother. And I'm excited for this one. I will say I'm not sure what the pick's going to be. I feel like this is a bit of a clash of styles, the striker versus the grappler. So that's usually favored the grappler. I want to lean towards Nick Aguirre, but because, Nick's got the APFC background and Peyton's got the A1 Combat background, I'm going to just say I hope both have fun. Takir Khan, good morning. Good morning. I hope everyone's having a great day. It's a bit hot here in Arizona. Hot. Well, it's cold. It's hot in my room. I've got the light on. I've got the LED, and it's burning me in my sweater here. We continue with, I think, everyone's favorite strawweight, Amanda Ribas and Luana Pinheiro. Pinheiro is a pretty interesting prospect. She's 11-1 overall. With a split decision over Michelle Waterson Gomez, a decision over Sam Hughes, and then a up kick on Randa Marcos. Those are her 3 UFC fights on the Contender Series. She got a big first-round TKO over Stephanie Frausto. Amanda Ribas, I think we know her. If you don't, very surprising. She's been one of the more fan favorites, I would say, on the female side over the last couple of years. Fun energy. Really bright personality, but she's had a couple tough losses. Macy Barber most recently in June of this year got her out of there in round 2. That was a brutal Macy Barber. I mean, I've never seen that version of Macy come out. Before that, unanimous decision over Viviane Araujo. Before that, a split decision setback to Caitlin Chikagan. Chikagan is the queen of split decisions and unanimous decisions. So no real shame in that one. The decision over Verna Jandiroba. Jandiroba, top ranked star right now. I think she's like number 6. So good win. And then, of course, we all remember that first initial setback to Marina Rodriguez, the second round TKO, a brutal one. I mean, that was a nasty nasty combo by Marina Rodriguez. So her UFC tenure has been alternating since 2021. She does have some notable wins over Mackenzie Dern, for instance, way back in 2019. She's got a submission over Paige Van Zant. So there are some real bright spots for Hebos, but I feel like we haven't found the consistency with her, kind of like what we were talking about with Chase. So this is an interesting matchup. Luana, 7 finishes in 11 victories. She stops fights, man. But at the UFC level, I think she's been struggling to get girls out of there, right? The split decision over Michelle Gomez, decision over Sam Hughes. To me, that is a big indicator that Amanda Hebos, who's had some tougher competition, and granted, maybe she's come up short against them, she's still getting rounds in. So I think I'm going to go with Hebos by decision. I think she can get back in the win column following that tough defeat to Macy Barber. And with the, 3.5 inches of reach she's going to have, I look forward to seeing her use it. I don't think a win over Van Zant now does any good. That's fair. I don't think, it's not exactly a more notable name, but at the same time, it's still somewhat recognizable. That at that point in 2020, Paige Van Zant was Paige was, I think, 2-3 in her last 5 heading into the Hebos fight. That was Paige's final UFC bout. So fair. I don't disagree, but a notable name. Maybe not the biggest, competitive win, but we all know Paige. Yeah, recognizing. Yeah, fair enough. We'll get to that. Sean Strickland and Paige Van Zant. One of the headlines that I wanted to read. Welterweight, this one's been scrapped. I don't think that this fight is happening anymore. Johnny Parsons and Uros Medic. I was really excited. I'm a big fan of Uros. He is a super fun striker, kind of similar to Vyacheslav Borshov last week. Johnny Parsons, I met Parsons a couple times. In fact, I've commentated one of his son's fights. And it's just he's a really nice guy, really powerful. He's more of a kickboxer, a Muay Thai guy. Spent a lot of time in Thailand training. He just flatlined Hot Chocolate, Danny Roberts, in his debut. Long time coming. Johnny Parsons he won the Contender Series, and then it was like 3 years before he had his debut. So it was a long time coming, and he gets it done. But unfortunately, I think he pulled out. So we'll just skip by that one and head to the prelims, which is headlined by JSP, Jonathan Pierce, and Joanderson Brito. Brito is a dog. I remember the finish over Andre Touchy-Feely. I remember the work that he was doing against Weston Wilson, getting him out of there, the submission of Lucas Alexander. The only person that's been able to get one over on Joanderson Brito in the UFC has been Bill Algeo, if I'm not mistaken. So for Jonathan Pierce, he's a grappler. We know what he brings to the octagon. But I'm not sold on him. I don't think. I feel like Joanderson Brito is going to get a finish here. That's going to be the pick. We'll keep it short and sweet. JSP's got a bit of height on him. He's got about 5 inches of height, but Joe Anderson's got the longer reach, which is pretty funny. I always love when that happens. So we'll go with Brito in that one. Jose Johnson and Chad Anheliger. Jose Johnson came in with, I was just looking at him earlier today. He was twistered by Damon Blackshear in August. Now he's got a guy in Chad who, again, I think is another grappler. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is it seems like not the sweet spot for Jose Johnson, who's 15-8 overall. So we'll go with Chad. Middleweight, Chris Duncan and Cesar Almeida. I think this is there's 2 Chris Duncans now in the UFC. There's Chris Duncan from, I think he's from Scotland, and then this Chris Duncan, who is also European, from England. So, yeah, he's coming off of a loss to, wait, I'm mixed up now. Why is this not updated? Weird. It says that Almeida, is this fight off as well? Is this fight gone? No shot. I didn't see anything about this fight being canceled. Let's see. Let's head to just the news. Allen versus Craig. I thought the only one that fell apart was the Johnny Parsons one. Nothing about anyone pulling out, actually. Great. Let's assume that this fight happens. Let's assume that this one goes according to plan. Cesar Almeida is coming in here with a lot of kickboxing experience, but not the most professional mixed martial arts experience. He is 4-0 in that discipline. But with kickboxing, I mean, he's had 3 fights with Alex Pereira, beat him by decision in 2013. In fact, he wasn't knocked out by Pereira. It was all 3 went to the scorecards. And some interesting wins. I'm not going to say big wins. He beat a guy named Danilo Souza, who was 5-28. So that's not great. Beat a guy named Lucas Fernando on the Contender Series. He was plus 220. So big underdog, gets it done. Chris Duncan, though, on the other hand, he is 8-1 overall as a professional mixed martial artist. His amateur experience is actually really well-rounded as well. A lot of IMAF wins and losses, 17-5 as an amateur. And that success really carried. I mean, Armin Petrosian got the decision against him back in June, so he's looking to bounce back. But before it, really great TKO over Dusko Todorovic. I like Dusko. I don't think he's in the UFC anymore, but he was a fun fighter, a good litmus test. And I'm expecting Christian Duncan to deal with Cesar Almeida, not pretty easily. I don't want to say easily at all, but Almeida's going to have that. He's a kickboxer stapled to him until further notice. If he gets by Chris Duncan, maybe we can start thinking about something else. Maybe we can cook up a different connotation. Then he's a kickboxer who went the distance with Alex Pereira. Right, let's continue with the prelims. Mick Parkin, Chow Machado. It kind of gets into really unknown territory. There's only a couple more fighters that I really want to talk about. Eileen Perez, who is the big twerk fighter. I think we all remember that. She had that interview with Fabiano Busquet where Fabiano was very flustered. Translator, if you don't know who I'm referencing. She has an interesting UFC career. So lost her debut by submission, then wins her last one out by decision over Ashley Evans-Smith. Now she's got Lucy Pujlova, who 14-8 has the experience edge, but at the same time is coming off of a unanimous decision defeat to Jocelyn Edwards. I don't rate Jocelyn Edwards as the highest in the world, so I'm going to go with Eileen Perez again. We'll see if the twerk god can make it 2 in a row. Next up, let's take it to Trey Ogden and Nicholas Moda. I don't know how this one got hidden so deep on the prelims. I mean, this could have been on the main card, in my opinion, pretty easily. Nicholas Moda has had a number of UFC fights as well as Trey Ogden. Ogden, last time out, came on the wrong side of a decision against Ignacio Bahamundes. Before that, beats Daniel Zellhuber. Before that, loses split decision to Jordan Levitt. And then on his Fury FC, he was on Looking for a Fight, picked up a arm triangle choke, and that's how he got vaulted into the UFC. I think is pretty solid. He was at Glory Lee Summit. He was, I think, one of the head trainers there. And, I mean, Daniel Zellhuber had a lot of hype coming in, and Trey just shut him down. He had a good fight with Ignacio Bahamundes, who has a lot of hype. Ignacio was a finisher, couldn't get Trey out of there. And Nicholas Moda is, in my opinion, this is a bad matchup for him. He has been finished in every single loss. Nicholas Moda has been TKO'd on 4 occasions and submitted on 1. Was just knocked out by Manuel Torres in June with a big elbow. Jim Miller got him out of there. He did get the finish over Cameron Van Camp, but I I don't rate him that highly. If you can get your hands on Nicholas Mota, it looks like you can get him out of there. And, he's a finisher in his own right, 9 KOs and 13 victories, but his UFC career isn't, I mean, it's not the craziest, in my opinion. Was signed in 2020 off the Contender Series, made the debut in 2022, has 1 win so far. His regional scene work isn't bad. He's got a knockout over Joe Selecki, who I know had a brief appearance in the UFC. I think, let's see, unless I'm thinking of somebody else. I think Selecki's. Yeah, not brief. I mean, Selecki's Alex De Silva, Carl Deaton III. He's fighting Jakar Close in December. Jeez. Yeah, so Joe Selecki, who's been in the UFC since 2019, strung together a lot of fights, win over Jim Miller, draw to Gregory Rodriguez, win over Donald. What am I saying Daniel for? In pro grappling matches. So Selecki's pretty talented. And for Nicholas Mota to get the win over him, I mean, that does say a lot, but I feel like maybe he hasn't risen to the level that he should be at, given the regional scene experience and work. He's a former lightweight CFFC champ, really respectable promotion. So we'll see. I'm picking Trey Ogden. I think Trey's gonna take this one, but maybe this is the time where Nicholas Mota reminds us, who he is and who the former CFFC champ, what he's all about. Next one up, Charles Johnson, first fight of the night at 125, Energy versus Rafael Estevam. Same thing. I'm not sure why this is so deep down in the card. You look at Charles Johnson, he's a former LFA flyweight champion, has a pretty solid resume so far. Big KO over Jimmy Flick. Did lose a decision to both Cody Durden and Ode Osborne in 2022. He came up short against Muhammad Mokaev. That was his debut. Then he gets the win over Zhalgas Zhumagulov. So he's been in there with some solid names, picked up a couple of good wins, and I think shown why he's inside the UFC. This is going to be Rafael Estevam's debut. He is undefeated. Macapa is 11-0 all the way from Rio de Janeiro. 7 finishes and 11 victories, ground and pound on the Contender Series, and ground and pound, the fight right before that as well. Yeah, big. I mean, big gets you to the ground and then either submit you or TKO you, which I like to see, but inactive since September of 2022, been a year and change. So we'll see what he can do. I mean, this is a tough test. Like, Charles Johnson is, like I'd mentioned, former LFA champion. He went 6-1 in that promotion. Now he's 2-3 in the UFC. So he's got a lot of high level experience. And I don't know. I don't think that this is this is not a guy that you want to debut against, right? Like this, it's a tough out for a lot of people. But at the same time, if Rafael Estevam can get by him, then that says a ton about, his upside, his potential. And currently on DraftKings, he is the favorite. If you were curious, he is -148. I'm definitely going to be putting a couple dollars on my guy, Charles Johnson. Plus odds, more experienced veteran, higher achievements so far in mixed martial arts. I don't know. Crazy thought. Call me crazy. That's the card. Now, I want to take it to some headlines here. And we put up a poll on Instagram. If you guys saw it, we asked you, the community, what do you guys want us to talk about? There were 2 things. Jamal Hill saying that he will knock out Pereira standing, put him up against the cage and get him out of there, kind of like what Pereira did to Adesanya. Jamal Hill's not going to knock out Alex Pereira. Jamal Hill is not going to finish the now 2-division Glory Hall of Famer. I just do not see it occurring. I really don't. Jamal Hill was great. I mean, he is a great light heavyweight. Let's not get it twisted. I don't want to be too disrespectful. He's a great light heavyweight, but Alex Pereira is hard to finish. He's hard to hurt. And especially when you think you got him done, he'll rock you. He'll shock you. And I think that if Jamal Hill fought Alex Pereira right now, let's say he's healthy, we'll give him that shoulder back or the elbow, whatever injury he was dealing with. He's completely healthy, gets in there with Pereira. I think it's going to look kind of similar to the Yuri Prochazka one, where Jamal's going to maybe jump into the pocket, eat that left, go down, and that's going to be that. A couple TKO elbows, and it'll be all she's written. I don't think that Jamal's boxing is solid, but I think that the calf kicks of Alex Pereira are going to be a problem, as they've been for everybody. And I just don't know what other gear Jamal Hill can turn it to. I mean, let's take it to his last fight with. Let me pull up the stats here. Let me yank up the stats. Let me get the numbers on this. Jamal Hill and Glover Teixeira was a great performance. You know, if you look at the round by round numbers, 46 strikes in round 1, 51 in round 2, 44 in round 3, 79 in round 4, and then 12 in round 5. It is a lot. Jamal Hill throws volume, and he connects frequently and often. I mean, he took Glover behind the barn. It was a 50-44 on all scorecards. However, I just don't think that he's going to. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be able to throw that much volume. I think he's going to be land that much. He only dealt with 10 leg kicks from, 4 leg kicks from Glover Teixeira. And Glover landed every single time. Glover went 4 for 4 on the leg kicks. So if Alex Pereira is able to get that same amount, right, consistently, just hammer the calf, and you try and rush in, I think you get put out. I don't understand what Jamal Hill is. You know, he had yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's great. I think he's good. He's on 4-fight win streak, all performance bonuses. Jamal Hill is a great light heavyweight. That's why he was the champion. But for him to stand there and go, or sit there rather, and just, I'm going to standing KO Alex Pereira. Just don't see it happening. I just don't think he's as sophisticated of a striker as he needs to be to do that. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm fine being wrong. But I don't think that he's got the tools to do it. You know, he's not a big grappler, you know. In fact, Thiago Santos got him down 6 times. He's never secured a takedown inside the UFC. So it's going to be purely striking. And once again, Alex Pereira, Glory Hall of Famer, 2-division Glory champ. If you're going to throw significant strikes landed per minute, 7 strikes a minute at Pereira, he's going to get the timing down. He's going to make the reads on the range. And he's probably going to clock you with something. The question is, can he take it? I think Jamal's got a good chin, but is it good enough? Is it Alex Pereira level good? That's the question. Takir Khan, I think it will be hard for anyone to beat Alex in a striking match. He doesn't have a standout performance. Yeah, I mean, you look at the Glover fight and you go, okay, you know, that was a fight of the night, capturing the title. But at the same time, I mean, let's not get it twisted. Glover is how old when that fight took place? That was January of this year. He was 42, 43. That's all I'm saying. So Jamal Hill saying he's going to standing KO Alex Pereira. Good luck. I hope you do. I hope you try. But I just don't see it happening. I see him winning, maybe. If Jamal Hill just said, I'm going to win. I'm going to beat Alex Pereira. Didn't get into the specifics. Didn't try and, make as big of a claim as he did. I harder to disagree with, right? Jamal Hill, former champion, saying, I can beat him. You know what? Yeah, I bet you can. I bet you can. But it's just the little thing of I'm going to standing KO Alex Pereira. That's where I have a little bit of a disagreement. That's where I have a harder time wrapping my brain around it when the best performance is against a 43-year-old who was coming off of a fight of the year with Yuri Prochazka. Just 6 months earlier, right? So I don't know. I think that Jamal can, but I don't think that he's going to standing TKO him. Now, here's some more tea. Here's some more gossip that we got to get into. It's between Leon Edwards and Ian Machado Gary. Some gym drama, some gym goss. This is what it is so far. Ian Gary saying that he has to leave the gym. They quote unquote kicked him out, right? And then you hear Patty Pimblett talking about, oh, Leon Edwards already knocked him out in sparring. First off, Patty, shut up. Shut up. Don't talk about gym spars and gym activity. It's a well-known rule that type of vocalization is inappropriate. It's not stuff you talk about. You just don't talk about the sparring sessions. You just don't get into what goes on behind the closed doors, especially not when it doesn't involve you. You weren't even in the spar. You were just maybe there and watched it. And then Patty's words get immediately contradicted by the champion, Leon Edwards, saying, no, that's not true. I never knocked Ian Gary out, but he did have a couple things to say. Because again, Ian said that Leon had some insecurities and worried about a future opponent, in himself. And Leon Edwards dismissed a decent amount of them and insisted that, hey, I've got nothing to do here. This is not on me. And this is verbatim. Here's the Leon Edwards quote. I think everyone knows that's shit. That's bullshit, right? Leon Edwards said about Ian's theory on being banned. The gym decided he wasn't fitting. He was just too different from the culture in our gym. He's a social media guy, brings the cameras everywhere. Then Leon goes further to say he's late to sessions. It's just two different cultures. It's not copacetic. The guys in the gym decided, not because of me. I think the last interview he did, he said, I sent him off to the hospital. So it can't go from that to now I'm being insecure. It's like, which one is it? Edwards stated. I wish him well in his career. I haven't got nothing good or bad to say about it. It wasn't the first gym he was kicked out of. He was at a gym in America. What happened there? His gym in Ireland he started with. What happened there? Leon Edwards continued. It can't be everyone else around you, right? It can't just be the gyms. Rocky twisting the knife a little bit, stating, hey, this is an existing issue. It's Ian Gary here that's having the problems, and he's pointing at fingers, but at everyone but himself. That's Leon Edwards' perspective. What an interesting one, and I think that my initial thought was, okay, that's understandable. If Leon's gym was like, hey, you're a top-ranked welterweight. We can see down the line this matchup occurring. We have had more years, more experience, more loyalty to the champion, Leon Edwards, in our gym. Respectfully, we're going to have to ask you to find a different home. That was what my initial takeaway was. That was what initially I thought it was, and I thought that was maybe fair, right? Then I learned it's more of the Ian saying, oh, Leon's insecure. And then Patty popping up saying some bullshit about knocking Ian out, hospitalization, all of this other stuff. Now Leon is saying it's a culture issue. So here's the problem, gang, is we've got a lot of different sides to this and a lot of different perspectives. And maybe there's truth to all of them. Maybe there is an ounce of truth, a seed of truth and validity to every single perspective that we've heard. Right? Your truth is different from my truth. What Ian Gary believes is true could be different from what Leon Edwards believes is true. So I'm not sure we can really pull away much, can't really conclude much. All we can conclude is that Ian Gary needs a new home, and it's certainly not going to be with Leon Rocky Edwards. That was a good little segment. That was a good clip. We're going to clip that one up. Maybe, I don't know if you guys can tell. We're trying to, take some of these streams and make them into like 9x16 bytes for the Instagram and other platforms. That one was intentional with the conclusion on it. All right. The next segment that I wanted to talk about was, and this is by Fox News. This is an article that Fox News brought up. We should make Leon versus Gary if Leon loses the belt to cure. Thought process here. What if Leon Edwards defends the throne and you get Rocky Edwards versus Ian Gary later in 2024? I love it. The storyline that's here. You know, the champion defending the belt against the guy that left the gym, that was exiled from the gym. Now he's come back to take everything. You know, I love that storyline. And again, respectfully, when we get to the UFC 296 fight week and we do the streams for that in December, you're going to hear my perspective on Colby Covington. And I don't think Covington is going to win that one. Don't think Colby's going to bring the belt home. I think that Leon's going to put him away. So that to me, all of this right here is just building. This is just, we're making a stew of a potential welterweight championship matchup that includes Leon Edwards and Ian Machado Gary. And this is, oh man, we're putting spice. We're putting spice in the stew of this welterweight matchup. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's take it to the Fox News article about UFC champ Sean Strickland takes Paige Van Zandt to task over OnlyFans revelation. This is by Ryan Gatos. If you want to read it, just Google Sean Strickland. A lot of things will probably pop up. This one might be near the top. So Van Zandt said that she made more money in 24 hours on OnlyFans than her entire fighting career. Now, Sean Strickland, he wrote 3 reasons why Van Zandt was rolling in cash from her fan site rather than in the octagon, whether it be UFC or elsewhere. Here's Sean Strickland's reasons. I'm going to make it very clear. I don't agree with a lot of what Sean Strickland says. Let's just get that there right away. Don't clip this and take it out of contextualization. Let's unpack. Strickland wrote, "You were signed because you're hot. Women's MMA is lame. Men will pay more to see you naked than to watch you fight." He then added, "Stay in school, kids. Fighting sucks." Sean Strickland's an interesting guy, right? He says a lot of wacky, outlandish things. If you agree, if you disagree, that's neither here nor there. That's just what he says. That's his perspective. The reason why he got in this was because Paige Van Zandt was recently on the Barstool Sports show called Only Stands, which was hosted by Glenny Balls. If you know Caleb Presley and Sunday Diaries, Glenny Balls is the big fat guy in the middle. PVZ was talking about the life-changing amount of money and, how it's been her largest source of income. I would say combined in my fighting career, I think I made more money in 24 hours on OnlyFans than I had my entire competitive career combined. Yeah, she says, "Even outside of the UFC and out of fighting, I've been pretty successful. I've worked pretty hard in other industries and trying to cross over to a more mainstream personality." She explains that social media prompted her to explore the OnlyFans platform because her followers often asked her to post photos of herself, and by monetizing that, she has made life-changing money. This isn't new. This isn't new. It's OnlyFans. It's been around for years. A lot of fighters have gravitated towards the platform. A lot of just females in general. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing super new. In fact, if she's making more money in 24 hours than her entire fighting career combined, I feel like it's only more people are going to do it. I mean, some of these athletes, right? They go, well, why the fuck am I busting my ass in the gym and taking these hard fights in the hardest promotion in the world to compete and grow and increase in? I want to just take maybe the easy fruit at some point in time. You know what I mean? I think there's the bad. Who's that girl that was on Dr. Phil, the Catch Me Outside girl? She made. I shit you not. You can look it up. You know what? Hey, I'm gonna look it up right now. Bad Baby OnlyFans numbers. They just dude, this is fucking stupid. She made $18 million. That was the initial boom. She made like $800,000 in 2021. I'm not sure if that was, $52 million on OnlyFans. She's made $1 million. And for what? You know what I'm saying? Like, for being disrespectful on Dr. Phil. I don't get it. I sometimes don't understand, but at the same time, it's like, how can you hate it? How can you hate it? They're making money their own way. You know what I mean? And Jessica Andrade is on OnlyFans. Oh, listen, I think the takeaway here, guys, is I'm gonna start on OnlyFans. I'm going to get on it. We're going to start making some serious dough, and the MMA Uncensored brand is going full in on OnlyFans. No, I mean it's such an interesting topic because of I would say the fight or pay conversation. You think about the lack of maybe revenue streams for athletes within the UFC and within mixed martial arts, and now they get this platform where they can make more money in 24 hours than they can in their entire careers. That is interesting, and that is certainly something that is if it is worth exploring to you, and you are financially pretty restricted, hard for me to hate. I mean, fuck it. It doesn't impact my life. Like the fact that Paige Van Zandt's making a shit ton of dough on OnlyFans, it doesn't impact me. It doesn't impact you. It doesn't impact anybody. If people want to pay money for that, cool. That's their dollars. You know what I'm saying? That's their dollars. I put my money towards other things, and that's just that. Jessica Andrade on OnlyFans? Yep. Which again, I mean, she was able to pay off her house, I think, right? She's mentioned, hold on a second. Jessica Andrade. This is gonna be a tough Google. OnlyFans house. Paid off house and car with nude OnlyFans photos. It's effective. If the UFC had maybe better revenue streams for the athletes, would they not have to do this? Maybe. Do they choose to regardless of, income? Maybe. There's a lot of questions. And I'm not in a spot where I'm going to make a lot of I'm not going to make a lot of answers or serious opinions on it. I'm just here to bring it to you. I'm just here to bring you Sean Strickland's opinions, which, I mean, you could make an entire channel dedicated to just the shit that Sean Strickland says. But yes, so those are the two big headliners. The last thing I want to leave you guys with is Israel Adesanya returning. The return. We talked about UFC 300 a little bit. The last stream, if you guys saw today, we put up the 9x16. And anytime I say 9x16, I just mean Instagram reel. We put up the reel of McGregor, that conversation that we were having. But let's talk about Israel Adesanya. Does Israel Adesanya come back at UFC 300? Back in 2024. He talks about this long layoff. He talks about stepping away from competition following the defeat to Sean Strickland. Now, things are a little bit different, guys. Now, Alex Pereira is the light heavyweight champion. Now, there's a rematch with Sean Strickland that I think people could probably get behind. So it begs a lot of questions. Is this the time for Izzy to step away from competing? I'm torn right down the middle. Half of it is he was very active. Israel Adesanya is one of the more active champions and fighters we've had. He's headlined a number of pay-per-views. Go through it. I mean, it's probably close to 10, maybe 11. I'll look it up right now. You know what? I have no excuse to not figure out the exact the exact number. Israel Adesanya, Tapology. Let us see. So it is. Yeah, UFC 234. This is just November of 2018. So this is about 5 years. In 5 years, Derek Brunson, Anderson Silva, Kelvin Gastelum, Robert Whittaker, Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa, Jan Blachowicz, Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker again, Jared Cannonier, Alex Pereira again, Sean Strickland. That's a ton. That's literally 11. And then when you go about the headlining, I was supposed to be counting. I didn't fucking count. Let us count the UFC headliners. So, Adesanya versus Silva, 1. Whittaker versus Adesanya, 2. Adesanya versus Romero, 3. Adesanya versus Costa, 4. Blachowicz versus Adesanya, 5. Adesanya versus Vettori, 2. 6. Adesanya versus Whittaker, 2. 7. Adesanya versus Cannonier, 8. Pereira, 9. Pereira, 2. 10. Adesanya versus Strickland, 11 pay-per-views he's headlined in the last 5 years. Let him take a break. If he wants to take a break, let him take a break. You know what I mean? I don't want to sit here and go, oh, that's easy. That's not a lot. That's an unbelievable amount of activity. So if he wants to step away, that's completely fine. I just think that there are some interesting matchups and certainly some UFC 300 worthy, worthy fights for him. He came into the UFC at UFC 221. So he missed UFC 200. If he misses UFC 300, I mean, does he make it to UFC 400? He's 34 years old. UFC 400 will be in, about 4 years and several months. I mean, he'll be 38. Will he make it to UFC 400? So I think UFC 300 would be worthwhile just to get on, have that really cool placement on the card. He could have the Alex Pereira fight at light heavyweight. He could run it back. Well, actually, no, he can't run it back with Sean Strickland because Strickland and Duplessis is coming up. So that's out of the window. But yeah, I think the Alex Pereira fight for UFC 300 makes a lot of sense. I think running it back for the 205-pound belt against a foe that he has literally been attached to by the hip for years would be great theater. And when you look at the 205-pound division, UFC rankings, you look at 205, Jamal Hill might still be injured. Yuri Prochazka just lost. Magomed Ankalaev matched up with Johnny Walker. Jan Blachowicz matched up with Alexander Rakic. Nikita Krylov, lone man out, number 6. So is Alex Pereira versus Nikita Krylov more than Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira? UFC does 14 pay-per-views a year. Okay, so I mean, same thinking. 4 years and 5 more. I can't do math right now. I've got a bright LED. I'm getting cooked. my brain power is not here. But either way, it's going to be a long time until UFC 400. So if Izzy misses out on 300, will he get onto it? I don't think so. So Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, UFC 300. I'd be interested in seeing it. I think it makes sense given the 205-pound division right now if Jamal Hill can't answer the phone. That's my thought. There you go. I would like to see Rakic versus Alex if Rakic wins. I agree. I wouldn't mind Alexander Rakic. I think that, he's had some, injuries the last couple of years that have just prevented him more so than anything else. That fight against Jan Blachowicz was in May of 2022. Now, January of 2024, it's running it back. So, I don't know. I mean, if he beats Jan Blachowicz, yeah. If he beats Blachowicz, I could stomach Pereira versus Rakic. I would almost prefer him to maybe fight a Krylov or fight a winner of Ankalaev and Walker or something like that. Just have another win. I mean, getting a title fight off of one win, to me, I've never liked it. You know what I'm saying? I've never enjoyed guys that get title shots off of one win. But in this circumstance, especially one win in, his last win was March of 2021. So you're telling me that one win in 3 years is enough for a title shot? I don't know. I don't know about that one. And Jan Blachowicz is 40, so we were talking about Glover Teixeira earlier. But, you want to bring up the split decision loss to Alex Pereira that Jan Blachowicz has, right? Arguably wins that one. So if Alexander Rakic does win against Blachowicz, then it's like, well, in some alternate scoring realm, you are the lineal light heavyweight champion. There's a lot of options here. I just think that one of the best ones right now would be Izzy versus Alex Pereira 4. But those are the highlights that we've got. That's the card, Allen versus Craig this weekend. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Again, like, subscribe, comment, or anything else helps with our engagement as we're trying to build out this live streaming side of the brand. Thank you again for tuning in. I've been Ben the Bane Davis, and I'll see you guys in the next one.